Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, September 29th, 2020. Today I'm going to recap Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. Last night's Monday night matchup between the Chiefs and the Ravens. Major League Baseball. Going to preview tonight's American League playoff games. The NBA Finals, I'm going to preview it and make my pick. Dancing with the Stars last night. We'll go over all the dance scores and who I think could get eliminated. And my best bet of the day. All right, we'll start with hockey. We have a Stanley Cup champion, and that is the Tampa Bay Lightning. 2-0 win over the Dallas Stars to take home Lord Stanley Cup. Their first title since 2004, back when Martin St. Louis was in his prime, and John Tortorella was their head coach. This is John Cooper's first cup. Obviously, this run pretty much saved John Cooper's job, or else I think he would have been out had Tampa Bay not made the, at least maybe the conference finals, maybe even the Stanley Cup final, because really, Cooper has been hot seat, because of his lack of playoff success. But he finally gets it done. This group finally wins a Stanley Cup. A lot of people are comparing this Lightning core to the Capitals because they never came through, and they finally came through. After so much hype and expectations for this franchise over the last 5-6 years, they finally get it done. First period, Braden Point on the power play, his 14th of the postseason, assists by Nikita Kucherov, his 27th, and Victor Hedman, his 12th. 1-0 Bolts. And then the second period, in 7 minutes into that, Blake Coleman's 5th of the postseason, assist by Cedric Paquette, his 3rd, and Patrick Bruin, his 5th. 2-0 Bolts, and they held on for the win. Number 3 star, 22 saves on 22 shots. Andrei Vasilevsky, number 2 star of the game with the goal. Braden Point, number 1 star of the game with assist. And Conn Smythe winner, Victor Hedman. So I thought this was a great series. A couple overtime games. Lightning won one of them. Dallas won the other. Obviously, the Lightning, I know people are going to say, oh, it's an asterisk champion and the bubble, yada, yada. This kind of does feel real because the Lightning were a team that many experts picked to win the Cup before the bubble and before the season, so it does feel real. Like, if the Lakers win the NBA championship, it'll feel real. If the Yankees win the World Series or the Dodgers, it would feel real. Any other winner in any sport or any of basketball or baseball would feel not real other than those 3 teams. And then for hockey, it would have felt real if Tampa Bay won. It would have felt real if the Bruins won. Considering how well they were playing before the bubble, Philadelphia. And in the West, I guess Vegas, it would have felt real. There's a couple I can name in the West, but if Dallas won the series, then everyone's like, oh, asterisk champion. Like, I feel bad for Dallas if that was the case. I'd still feel bad because they lost the series because they had looked like, to me, the Blues from last year. And the way the Antoine Khudobin was playing, like, kind of reminded me of Jordan Binghamton a little bit and being in the same division. A bunch of role players offensively stepping up, and then their defense being very good. So Dallas has got a bright future ahead of them. They have to remove the intern tag from their intern coach because he brought them to the Stanley Cup Final. Rick Bowness. He said he's not focused on his long-term status, but if I'm them, I bring him back because I think he did a good job with this team. And Jim Montgomery just underachieved with this team flat out. Rick Bowness really did a good job getting a lot out of these guys. and taking them to the Stanley Cup final. And that's the other thing, the other comparison to the Blues. He was this year's Craig Berube. The only difference is that they didn't win the Cup. And the only difference between Bowness and Berube is that Berube already had a previous head coaching stint in the NHL with the Philadelphia Flyers. Like in 2013-14, he got fired. He was brought in after Peter Laviolette got fired from Philadelphia. And then they got to the playoffs, lost in 7 to the Rangers, and then they missed the playoffs the next year. He got fired. Well, we know the Flyers are a dysfunctional franchise like that. Like, they bank you out after you fail, pretty much. And, so, yeah. I think the Stars are going to be in the West. They're here to stay. Miro Heiskanen is a future Norris Trophy candidate. Antoine Khudobin, I don't know if really is the long-term answer in net, but he really showed me a lot in the postseason. Corey Perry looked like the Corey Perry from the Ducks in the playoffs. Joe Pavelski looked like the Joe Pavelski from the Stars in the playoffs. And that'd be the two questions I have for them going in the next year if those two guys come back and repeat their success. So I think they got to make some moves offensively if they want to get back to the Stanley Cup final. And then Tampa, I think, will be back next year, obviously. You got Hedman and McDonough. You got Vasilevsky. You need to get Steven Stamkos healthy. Seeing him lift the cup last night was very, very heartwarming for me to see because he's been through a lot, like so many injuries and health problems, and it was just awesome to see him lift Lord Stanley's cup. And he played a little bit in the series as well. But seeing him lift the cup, you could just see the joy in his face. Nikita Kucherov is probably the best, one of the best, if not the best, forward or at least wing player in the league. Braden Point's a young and up-and-coming guy. Miguel Sergachev's awesome. Blake Coleman was a good trade acquisition, although I felt that they overpaid. And then they have a lot of good role players. Anthony Cirelli, Alex Killorn, Patrick Maroon, Andre Palat. Tyler Johnson is better than a role player. He's probably like a super solid starting player. So yeah, Tampa, I think, should be the favorites going into next season. Also in the East, Philadelphia is going to be good. Boston, I think, has some questions this offseason. They might take a step back. So wouldn't it be surprising to see them not necessarily miss the playoffs next year, but barring some major additions, they're probably a Tier 2 team rather than a Tier 1 team. Montreal unexpectedly made round 2 this year. I mean, they could thank the bubble for that. Ottawa's still going to suck. The Red Wings are still going to suck. The Sabres, to me, comes down to what they do with Jack Eichel. His name's been in trade talks. And a team that's looking at potentially acquiring him, the New York Rangers, I think are going to be a contender potentially next year. Especially if they pull off an Eichel deal or a deal for a competent number 2 center, then that's a Stanley Cup contender next year, quite frankly. And then you have the number 1 overall pick. Do they take Alexis Lafreniere, or do they trade that pick in a potential deal for Eichel? Like, I made a list a couple months ago of guys that I think is tradable for the number 1 pick. I mean, Eichel, I think I would do that. If I'm the Rangers, I would do it. Buffalo, maybe. Because the Rangers need either a number 2 center or you move Mika Zibanejad down to the 2 spot and you could slot Eichel in there. Washington has Peter Laviolette as their new coach. I I think Washington's probably a Tier 2 team. Pittsburgh, they're probably a Tier 2 team, although they make some interesting moves already. The Islanders made the conference finals. They should be still good. Matt Barzal, obviously a restricted free agent. The Devils, I think, are still bad. So that's interesting in the East. So I think Tampa really should have a somewhat easy path to go to the final next year unless the Rangers make some monster trade for Eichel or Philadelphia makes a major jump. Boston makes a major trade, or the Islanders make a major trade, and like there's a couple candidates that could make a big trade or a signing to be right there at Tampa. And then out west, I think that west is still wide open. I think Dallas needs to add more scoring depth, especially if Pavelski and Perry aren't back. St. Louis, I think, will still be good. Vlad Tarasenko coming back. And Alex Pietrangelo is a free agent. So that's going to be an interesting decision there. The Blackhawks, maybe they make a jump. Maybe that's a major trade candidate as well. If they make a big trade, maybe they jump to Stanley Cup status. But I have questions in net for them. Vegas is still awesome. Vancouver's up and coming. I think the Sharks, the Ducks, and the Kings are all rebuilding. Those are all three candidates to blow it up and start over. The Minnesota Wild is an interesting team. Maybe they could go in either direction. Nashville, I don't know where they go. I think that could be a Tier 2 team, or maybe they could take advantage of a wide open West with a couple moves. So yeah, the West has some intriguing teams going forward, and obviously the draft is soon. Free agency is soon. The 2020 NHL draft is October 6th and 7th. It was supposed to be obviously in June, but COVID happened. And it's going to be a virtual draft. So it's going to be like via conference call, similar to the baseball draft in the later rounds, and in football, their draft was virtual this year too. And then we already seen some trades being made in the offseason already in hockey. Pittsburgh traded away Patrick Hornquist. We've seen a couple other deals. We don't have a date for free agency yet. That's going to be interesting. So obviously we'll get more into hockey in a couple weeks once the draft rolls around. Now we'll move on to the NFL. We had a big game last night. The Chiefs defeated the Ravens 34-20 on Monday Night Football. Kansas City's 3-0. Baltimore is 2-1. Patrick Mahomes, 31-42, 385 yards, 4 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, very dismal. 15-28, 97 yards, a touchdown, 9 carries, 83 yards. I was expecting a lot more from Lamar. I did pick the Chiefs to win, but I didn't think that the Ravens would only put up 20 points. First quarter, Justin Tucker field goal, 3-0. Mahomes it was a rushing touchdown. That's right. Bucker misses the extra point that cost me the over. Second quarter, Mahomes to Anthony Sherman, 5 yards, 13-3. Devin Duvernay, 93-yard kickoff return for touchdown, 13-10. Mahomes to Tyreek Hill, 20 yards, 20-10. Mahomes to Mecole Hardman, 49 yards, 27-10. Third quarter, Justin Tucker field goal, 27-13. Fourth quarter, Jackson to Nick Boyle, 5 yards, 27-20. And then Chiefs put it away on a touchdown, 2-yard pass from Mahomes to, wait for it, Eric Fisher, the former number 1 overall pick in the 2013 draft, the offensive lineman, 34-20, and that was your ball game. All right, we're not going to do Overreaction Tuesday today. Instead, we'll do a special Overreaction Wednesday because I want to get into NBA Finals and the baseball games for today. So first, we're going to do baseball. We have a bunch of games today in the first round of the postseason. I made my predictions on the podcast yesterday of where I'm going in each series. Now it'll just be game by game. 2 o'clock, ABC. So ABC gets a playoff game. Well, ESPN needs the money, obviously, and expanded postseason. So this is an opportunity for ABC to get playoff games. But I'm not mistaken. The Yankee Twin wildcard game, I think, was on ABC, simulcast with ESPN a couple years ago. But I could be wrong. You got the Astros and the Twins. Zach Greinke against Kenta Maeda. The Twins are minus 168. The Astros are plus 146. Over under 7.5. Juice to the under minus 120. The over is minus 102. Twins run lines plus 124 minus 1.5. And then Astros plus 1.5 is minus 146. I'm going with the Astros on the money line, plus 146. I think they win a game in the series, and I think that'll be today. Kenta Maeda's had playoff success before with the Dodgers. Zach Greinke, meanwhile, has flopped in big playoff games. I get it. But I picked Twins in 3. I'm going to say the Astros win today. Let's go 5-3 Houston. That would mean the over would hit too. So give me plus 146 Astros. 3 o'clock ESPN, you got the White Sox and the Athletics. Lucas Giolito against Jesus Luzardo. White Sox minus 120 road favorites. Oakland is plus 104. Over under 7.5. Juice to the over minus 112. Unders minus 108. Plus 1.5 for the Athletics is minus 162. And the White Sox minus 1.5 is plus 136. I'm going to pick the White Sox to win game 1. I picked them to win the series. They're minus 120 favorites here. At Oakland, no Matt Chapman. Jesus Luzardo, I like Lucas Giolito too, but I think the White Sox gotta get off to a good start here. So give me the White Sox here in game number 1 to get it done. 5 o'clock on TBS, you have the Blue Jays and the Rays. Matt Shoemaker against Blake Snell. Rays minus 196. Blue Jays plus 168. Over under 7.5. Juice to the under at minus 115. Over is minus 105. Plus 1.5 for the Blue Jays is minus 126. And then the Rays minus 1.5 is plus 108. My play here is going to be the Rays on the run line at plus 108. Blake Snell has pitched in big spots before. Never in the postseason. Oh, wait, did he pitch in the playoffs? Yeah, against the Astros last year, so never mind. He's pitched in playoff games before. Matt Shoemaker is not. I'm going to take the minus 1.5 at plus 108. I'm going to say that the Rays win this game 5-2. And I think Blake Snell pitched well. Maybe he goes 7, and then you go Nick Anderson for 2 innings to close out. I like the Rays on the run line of plus 108 as my play for this game, and obviously the Rays to win straight up. And last but not least, the best game of the night, the best series of the 8 in the postseason, the Yankees and the Indians. It's an even game. The Yankees were slight favorites yesterday, but it's minus 108 on each side. On FanDuel, over under 6.5. Over is minus 104. The under is minus 118. Yanks on the run line, minus 1.5 is plus 168. Indians minus 200 plus 1.5. So they're suggesting to you that the Yankees are probably the slightest of favorites. I'm either going to go with the Yankees on the money line at minus 108 or the over. I kind of do like the over in this game because I could see the Yankee offense going off a little bit against Shane Bieber. I could see a slow start from Shane Bieber. He's never pitched in a playoff game before. Meanwhile, Garrett Cole pitched in the playoffs last year with the Astros and the year before too, and with the Pirates a couple times as well. So for the pick for this game, I did take the Indians in 3 in the series, but I think the Yankees are going to win tonight's game because of Garrett Cole and the fact that Shane Bieber's never pitched in a big game before. I still think the Indians probably win the series, but I kind of think the Yankees win tonight. But do I go minus 108 or go with the over with the good value at minus 104? Or wait for it to drop to 6 and pull the trigger on it. But I could see a world where the Yankees win 5-1. And Garrett Cole goes 7 strong. Britton and Chapman to close it out. And the Indians' bats are quiet. This is a tough decision here, guys. And then I could see a world where the Yankee bullpen doesn't get it done, or Shane Bieber pitches well and Garrett Cole pitches well, and then it comes down the bullpens, and maybe Chapman relives nightmares from 2016. This is so tough. You know what? I'm going to just take the minus 104 on the over. I may come to regret it. That's just super duper value. I'll bet on the Yankees too, but my podcast play here is going to be over 6.5 in the Yankees-Indians game. Now we'll preview and predict the NBA Finals. Should be a fun series between the Lakers and the Heat. I talked about storylines yesterday. Obviously, LeBron against his former team and his former coach, Eric Spoelstra. The only teammate he had with the Heat that's still around is the Udonis Haslem, who doesn't play. So that's kind of funny. So you got LeBron, you got AD, and then their cast of characters. Kyle Kuzma, you got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Rajon Rondo, who's been in a lot of big games before with the Celtics and with the Pelicans, and now here at the Lakers. You got Alex Caruso, who is a heat check guy. Dwight Howard's played well for the Lakers. JaVale McGee's had moments. And then on the flip side here, you have a deep Miami team led by Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler. You got a lot of young guys playing well. Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn, and Tyler Harrow. Kelly Olynyk off the bench. You have Goran Dragic, who's been in big games before. Andre Iguodala, Jake Crowder. So you can make a case that the Heat are the deeper team. But I've been saying it for months. I think it's meant to be for the Lakers. With Kobe passing away and a fan base that really has been desperate for a championship since Kobe was in his prime, since they had Pau Gasol, a city that's starving. Obviously, Dodgers underachieving in the playoffs year after year. The Kings are not good anymore. I think this is the Lakers' time. I'm going to say Lakers in 6. I think Miami gives them a great series. I think every game will be competitive because Miami is just that good of a team. They have a coaching advantage in this series. They're exposed over Frank Vogel. I would consider betting the Heat to win the series at over 3-1. But I don't know if they'll actually do it. And like I said, LeBron's going to be motivated to play against his former team. LeBron's going to be the finals MVP, I think. But Miami can absolutely win the series. The case for it is Bam Adebayo continues to be great and dominates his matchup against Anthony Davis. They got to have Davis guard him. Although they figured it out against Jokic. And obviously, Jokic is a better player than Bam. But I think Bam is the key to the series for Miami, as well as the trio of young guys I talked about with Harrow and Nunn and Duncan Robinson. But I'm going to say Lakers in 6. And I'm going to see if there's any props for it in terms of the series outcome. LeBron's a minus 165 favorite for Finals MVP. Anthony Davis is 3-1. Jimmy Butler's plus 750. Bam's 9-1. Goran Dragic's just 20. Tyler Harrow's 30. Rajon Rondo's 80. And then the rest of the guys, Duncan Robinson and Jay Crowder, Andre Iguodala, Danny Green is some role player forgot about from the Lakers, been in a lot of big games. So this would be back-to-back championships for Danny Green, by the way. But yeah, Miami's plus 250 on FanDuel. And I'm trying to find a series in X Games price, but I can't find one on FanDuel. I'm going to check DraftKings and see if they have it, because I would bet Lakers in 6 right now if it's anything above 3-1. Series correct score. Lakers in 6 is plus 325. Lakers in 5 is 3-1. Lakers sweeps 4-1. Lakers in 7 is plus 550. Miami in 6 is 8-1. That's intriguing. Miami in 7 is plus 650. Miami in 5 is 17-1. And Miami to sweep is 50-1. So plus 325 I think is a good number for Lakers in 6. Although Lakers in 7 plus 550 I like as well. Right before best bet, I'm going to talk about Dancing with the Stars a little bit and make a prediction of who gets the boot this week. Obviously, last week we saw Charles Oakley get voted off. Last night was Disney night. So you had Sky Jackson, a Disney Channel actress, with Alan Bernstein dancing a jive to Almost There by Anika Noni Rose. The song is obviously from The Princess and the Frog, and they got an 18. So then you got Monica Aldama and Val Chermakovsky doing a Vanessa waltz to Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid. They got a 21. Justina and Sasha did the Charleston to Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. They got a 19. AJ McLean and Cheryl Burke did a quick step to Prince Ali from the original Aladdin by Robin Williams. They got a 21. That was a good dance. Then you had Anne Hetch and Keo Motsbeat do a quick step to Zero to Hero, obviously from Hercules. They did it to Ariana Grande's version. Then you had Jeannie Mae and Brandon Armstrong do a Vanessa waltz to Married Life That's from Up. They got a 22. You had Nelly and Daniela Karagach do a foxtrot to It's All Right by John Batsy. They got an 18. Carol Baskin and Pasha Pashkov did a samba dance to Circle of Life from The Lion King. They got a 12. They were terrible. Then you had Artem Chivintrasev and Caitlin Bristow do a rumba dance to How Far Will I Go, or How Far I'll Go from Moana. They did very well. They got a 23. Then Vernon Davis and Peter Murgatoid did a quick step to Be Our Guest from Beauty and the Beast. They got a 22. Then Nev Schulman and Jenna Johnson did an Argentine tango to Angelica. They got a 24. Then Johnny Weir and Britt Stewart did a rumba dance to Reflection by Christina Aguilera. Obviously, that's from Mulan. They got a 24. Then Jesse Metcalf and Sharna Burgess did a jive dance to King of New York from Newsies. That got a 20. I thought that was a good dance. And then last but not least, you had Korshel Stoss and Gleb Savchenko do a waltz dance to A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes from Cinderella. They got a 22. The judges, Howe and Tanioli, saved Anne and Keo, who did Zero to Hero. And Inaba didn't vote, but would have voted to save Anne and Keo as well. I think Carol Baskin's going home. I think she was terrible. She arguably should have went home last week, but I correctly predicted that Charles Oakley would go home. We'll obviously go over the results on the podcast tomorrow. And my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. This is very tough. The only sport that has the stage tonight, obviously, is baseball. But for the best bet, I'm going to go with the Rays on the run line. I think that's the best bet. I just think the Blue Jays are not very good. Matt Shoemaker's not very good. I think the Rays are just better than Toronto. So, Rays run line, best bet of the day. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the baseball playoff games, looking ahead to Game 1 of the NBA Finals. I'll do my NFL overreactions, recap Dancing with the Stars. Or did I say NFL Week 1 overreactions? Week 3 overreactions and power rankings. And obviously Dancing with the Stars results. And maybe I'll talk about the debate a little bit. And obviously the Masked Singer, will preview it a little bit. As Group B will start tomorrow night. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.